Hello, everybody, and welcome to the absolute massacre that is the First Date by Blink-182 episode. Before we get into it, though, allow me to thank the sponsor of this week's episode, Alabama Deathwalk, whose brand new single, Bluff, you are listening to right now.
Too short to
Alabama Deathwalk is the musical project of Eric Reed from Texas. Eric has been making music under the Alabama Deathwalk umbrella with his friends for over 10 years and continues to improve his craft with each release. Their new record, Young Runner, released today, January 22nd of 2021, and it is available on all streaming platforms right now. Please check the show notes to find out where you can follow them on Spotify, Apple Music, their Instagram, Twitter, all of that stuff in the show notes for this episode at reminiscentpodcast.com/episode/207. And of course, stick through all the way to the end of the episode where we'll be playing their new song Bluff in its entirety. Thank you so much to Alabama Deathwalk for sponsoring this episode. And now let's get into the show.
Stop living in the past, Tom. Stop living in your fears, because today this is the fart punkiest of the fart punk music videos,
Probably.
debatably. And I'm going to ask you to roll this music before we even get into it.
Let's do it. What is going on, everybody? I'm Tom.
And I'm Pat.
We're best friends, and you're listening to the Reminiscent Podcast. Where we at, Pat? We're not doing In Too Deep again, are we? Because that might be a contender for the fart punkiest. Or maybe not.
Where are we? We're in El Segundo, California, 1974, baby. The vibes are loose. And we're hanging loose because sorry. Okay. Yeah, no, we're doing Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, First Date, Blink-182, the music video specifically. But yeah, First Date, here we are. One of our favorite, we've done a lot of Halloween costumes together, but this is there with one of our personal favorites, if not our best. Here we are, we're doing it. We shy away from Blink a lot because we don't want to always just do Blink because that's not really the show and it's our favorite. We don't want to play favorites, but I think we're allowed to, so we're gonna. And I'm pretty excited. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think it's turned into one of those things where like we want to do it so badly that we don't want to mess it up, so then we just never do it. Like we end up never talking about our favorite band. And this is one of their best songs, one of the best music videos. Yeah, we had that great Halloween of 2012, 2013, one of those two, where we dressed up as the characters from the band, Boomer, Spalding, and Travis. The thing that I
love
loved,
that it's just Travis.
which is so on brand because he's like not goofy. He's not the one that plays into all the stuff with the band, although we see a glimpse of it in this music video. But I'm going to put it up on Twitter. I'm going to put it in the show notes. The costumes we did, they were so spot on. But what I actually loved about it is the three of us were in a band. There was a fourth member, Adam. He wasn't there for Halloween, but I was Travis and I played drums in our band. You were Mark or Spalding and you played bass in our band. And our buddy Zach was Boomer or Tom, and he sang and played guitar in the band. So like we were even the right member for our own position in the band. Like everything about the outfit, the costume was so perfect. I had so much fun that weekend with you, and it'll forever be one of my favorite photos of us.
I remember this. You bought the Kill Them All shirt that Travis wears in the video, and you had every detail right, but you didn't shave your beard. Like I always found that curious because you spent money to have it exact, but kept the beard, which I always found curious.
Well, first of all, it was just a Metallica shirt. I didn't know that it was a Metallica shirt. I just Googled like Kill Them All shirt and it came up. It was like $9 on Amazon. I really, really did think about shaving my beard, although I've had facial hair since I was like, I mean, barely, but since I was 17.
Since it started growing.
Yeah. And I think at this point I was 22 maybe. And, I wasn't ready to part with it just for like a Halloween costume, especially since the day we were dressing up wasn't even Halloween itself. It was like the day before or something.
Oh, okay.
I thought about it, But no, there's no way it ever would have happened.
I know. But yeah, I just had to point it out real quick, not to start the show off on it's like, hey, let's get some momentum. Get in the music. Screech halt. I got a bone to pick with you. The shirt, but no beard. Okay. All right. No, it's fine. We had a great time. Not our best all around fun for everybody, both people guessing, etc. Halloween costume you've done. A lot of good high school group costumes. But for us, the few people that like immediately recognized it and they were like, Boomer! And this was before okay Boomer stuff.
Right.
But it was worth it for the few people that loved it. But yeah, they shut down Court Street in Athens, Ohio, and we danced the night away. Literally, just danced forever. Just had a great time. But yeah, first date. I guess I feel like we always hate, like you said, we hate to do Blink ones because we feel like we're going to ruin it. We should stick to the show. Stick to what the show format is. Fast and or fun facts. Tom, do we have any? Do you want to get into that? Is that we just treat it like regular? Don't get too nervous. I'm already nervous. I'm going to stop talking.
Do you remember the first time you heard it?
I'm not sure I do. You have a better detail memory for these sorts of things. And sometimes I do have the story, but I mostly just remember Enema knocking my socks off and then kind of just diving into the whole kettle, diving into as much Blink as I possibly could, Dude Ranch, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, things like that. Once that door had been opened, I don't remember being somewhere and hearing the single or hearing the hit separately. I just remember hearing Enema, which was one of the burn CDs, I think, in that binder my sister got me, unless my brain's just pushing my memories together in my head. But maybe it was just like not in the binder, but it was still something from my sister. It had the parental warning on it. I was really excited. And I think the parental warning extends to the visuals in the video we're about to get into. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, possibly the fart punkiest of the fart punky music videos we talk about. A lot of growing up to do, all right? These young men have a lot of growing up to do. That's all I'll say. No, I'm just kidding. But no time and place for this specific song. I guess you kind of, whenever you do hear it for the first time, you feel like, oh, this is a hit. This is but I think something I wanted to get into today a little bit was they wrote a couple songs on this album to be hits, or the producer or the executive or whoever was like, hey, we need a radio hit. Like we need summer song. We need, so they wrote tongue-in-cheek versions of Blink songs. And it's interesting, we did the Christmas draft and they wrote their one Christmas song, I Won't Be Home for Christmas. It sounds like a Blink song just with Christmas as the theme. And when you listen back to this with those things in mind, it's one of their best songs. I think many would agree. But it is like a Blink song with the riffs and everything, just like if someone asked them to do that, but instead of Christmas as the theme, summer dating relationship pop song, like, hey, write the hit version of a Blink song. And it was like, he was right. It totally worked. It worked on me anyway. But I wondered if you had any thoughts on that aspect of it. Because I do remember thinking about this song for the first time, not necessarily hearing it for the first time, but being like, oh, yeah, okay, I get it. This is one of their hits. I think it might have been, outside of the album, might have been watching Clock Stoppers in Mr. Cadden's class, like the day before a holiday.
God, dude.
Or something. I think First Date was on that soundtrack. I could be wrong. I forgot about that movie, man. I mean, we'll talk about the stats in a minute, but I think that and Max Keebler's Big Move, it's on one of the two. It's hard to say. Oh, okay, enough fake nostalgia fun.
That was like the original Community Paintball episode, right?
Hey.
They had to like stop time with the paintball guns or whatever.
It was an intense movie. It wasn't just a throwaway Nickelodeon movie. That made me question a lot. My reality was shaken that day. But it was also, it's like, wow, this song must be huge because I'm hearing it in more places than I usually hear Blink-182 stuff. And we'll get into those stats in a minute, I think.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because you want to think that like the experience is cheapened by like, who was that artist where like, we need you to write a love song. And then she wrote, I'm not going to write you a love song because you asked for it.
Yeah.
Like, people write these things like in spite of their manager or whatever, but like the fact that it was really sad to find out that like
Sarah Bareilles, by the way, and that's
there you go
hard.
Yeah. It was really sad for me to find out that like the band had a really hard time writing and recording this album together, and Tom wanted to go like heavier, and it's kind of ironic that he's quoted as saying he rewrote some of his lyrics after listening to Alkaline Trio, realizing that he had to step up his game.
Yeah, when Skiba joined the band, a lot of old interview clips of him, or maybe just the one, surfaced where he's like, yeah, I look to Skiba and what they're doing a lot because I think they're really ahead of the game in terms of the pop punk lyrics, punk, modern 2000s punk lyrics or whatever, which obviously when Skiba joined the band, you get to pull those clips and be like, oh, see, what? Oh, that's great. But, there are a lot of timelines, I'm sure, where Skiba wasn't the addition when Tom left. But,
yeah.
it
Could
is
have been Machine Gun Kelly, right?
Hey, Travis works well with him, as we've learned. Does a lot for that guy. Good for the both of them. I'm sure you wouldn't be alone there, Tom. But that album was pretty good. I hope he's in a good place. Anyway, I think this is just before we start to see emo Tom with the Macbeth era, different guitar, pre-Angels and Airwaves. Like, this is kind of the last of that 2-album run, which was insane, and Self-Titled was great too, but it was just different. I mean, this is the last fart punk video we were going to get, I think.
Yeah, and
until Tom left and they started doing homage Naked Run videos through with Adam Devine instead of, you know what I mean? Like, they got re-fart punky now that they're older, which is weird because they're maybe trying to recapture their youth. Like, there's a different episode about the Weezerification of Blink, and I love them both. I'm not trying to talk shit on either of those bands, but like, there's a larger discussion to be had about that.
Yeah, but like, initially I want to be like, man, it's a bummer that they didn't just think of this song. They didn't write it on their own accord, because like, I mean, you think about Stay Together for the Kids and like heavier songs like that happened on this album, being like, we need something fun and poppy. But the fact that they still did this and the rock show, and like, I think this is one of the ones where like, we wrote it in a half an hour.
The toughest thing to admit is when the producer or the exec
is right.
Is kind of right. Like, for a rock critic especially, it's like, well, we can't like it now, like, or if you're a fan of a band for a long time, if you're a Weezer fan long enough, Blue becomes not your favorite record, even though it's fucking the best. It's like, well, here's why I have a different opinion. I was watching a Bee Gees documentary recently, and Chris Martin from Coldplay very wisely, I think, said it comes to a point when you're so good that like the most interesting thing you can say about a band is that you don't like them. And that's like this counterculture of the Zag take that we talk about, or other pods talk about. But, First Date rips. It's a good song, but does it crush your heart a little bit to learn that it was not something they would have on their own put on the record, as the story goes anyway? I mean,
they still wrote it. It wasn't like a song by committee or anything.
No, I know, but it was just like, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, at first it's like, oh man, but they still did it. They didn't buy this off of someone else or whatever. So it's still very like in the DNA of Blink-182.
Shots fired at Bowling for Soup. Oh, shit. No, I'm just kidding.
Jeez.
I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm sorry. They didn't buy. I'm sorry. Not warranted or justified. Those are the kinds of shots that Eve 6 has been taking on Twitter lately. At Bowling for Soup. Right. That's not what we're here to do, guys. That's not what we're here to do.
But this album itself, and I wonder if it would have gone 2 times platinum without First Date in the rock show. But either way, it went double platinum, over 2 million copies sold. Kerrang recently kind of rated number 14 on the top 50 best rock albums of the 2000s. I think it'd be a little higher. In this year, in 2001, it was number 1 on US Billboard Top 200, the album, and it was also number 1 on, I don't know what this means, top internet albums. I've never heard that award before.
Most downloaded, maybe, I don't know.
Oh yeah, maybe. It's definitely a Tom song. It was written primarily by him, based on memories of his initial courtship with then spouse Jennifer Jenkins.
Sad. Single tear. Great song though. It's interesting. I keep getting caught up on the fact that he and Tom each wrote a quote unquote hit song for the album. And, but yeah, I mean, it's not like they weren't his actual feelings on the matter, I suppose. Right. Because that's, as Wikipedia, our deep research alludes to, that's pretty real. His initial courtship with his then, it's just like, rock stars can get nervous too, Tom. They're just like us.
Well, I at this time, like 13, 14, whatever, related so, actually, no, I was 10 when it came out, but
yeah, I mean, as a teen, we were like, makes total sense to me at this given moment in time. I don't know what to wear. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to think. I can't eat. I can't sleep. It's just like, or you could eat and sleep and do all those things, but those memes about 11-year-olds lying in the rain, stressing over the relationship they haven't been in yet. You know what I mean? But that's where your mind's at. And it just landed square in the middle of everything I wanted to be hearing at the time. So yeah, it made enough sense to me at the time, I guess.
I really resonated with I'm jealous of everybody in the room, which for years I thought he said I just off everybody in the room, like he writes them off. Just I don't know.
Tom
Young
is
brain
not our
kinda...
lyrics guy on the team here at Reminiscent FM, and I think he'll be the first to admit there are examples as to why. No, I'm just kidding. The dangerous thing I don't want to get into is when we talk about stuff we love the most. We've sat with it for so long that we end up being too negative. This song's incredible. And yes, jealous of everybody in the room. You're starting to be exposed to emo themes that you'd explore deeper and deeper and later into the decade as we grew up and got into junior high and high school. Jealous of everybody in the room. It's just like, I think the majority of people who are in the target audience had not been on a first date when they heard this. So they were like only going off of this to be like, okay, so it's normal to be nervous. I'm jealous. It's like these are feelings that are being said out loud for the first time into my ears. There's fart monkey swearing going on. This album's crazy. But yes, I want to be at least try to compensate for us being fans for so long with being at least a little bit positive as to say, this is a great song.
Yes. Top whatever of all time. But it's not just a great song. One of my favorite music videos.
Yes, top whatever of all top internet song of all time.
I've realized that through the course of the show, I've said top 10 songs of all time probably like 50 times. So I don't want
you say top 10 and I say in my top 25 of all songs, regardless of genre, maybe my top 50. I don't know if this makes my top 50 necessarily, but it's up there. Blink holds a special place. The video, obviously, Halloween costume for us, very memorable. I don't know if it's Blink's best because they have a lot of good ones, at least from our purview. What the whatever. Anyway, okay, from our vantage point. Okay, but yeah, as quoted by Wikipedia, an homage to 1970s culture. It was filmed over 3 days in British Columbia with the performance footage filmed in a garage decorated with 1970s paraphernalia. Here we go. Homage. It's an homage. One journalist, Joe Schumann, interpreted the video as a retelling of the film Dazed and Confused. Interesting.
Never seen it.
A lot of heavy lifting from the van, I guess. It's not all about the 70s. Very little about the actual video, I would argue, is other than the costumes loosely, and the van itself has to do with the 70s. I guess let's just start from the top. Should we start from the top?
Yeah, we get an intro. There's brother kissing.
Some dialogue.
There's some dialogue.
A lot of dialogue.
We actually memorized.
A lot of
we
dialogue.
had memorized this, and we said it as we walked around downtown when we dressed up as them for Halloween. Yeah,
and the few people that knew the costume, there was a subset of them that even knew the dialogue. So was it worth the time to memorize? Not a lot of lines to memorize. That's a given maybe. But they're in a garage. And you know what blew my mind, Tom?
What?
Not worth that much build up, honestly. But okay. So there's, at the end of the video, there's them dressed up. I guess, there's a little snippet that we'll talk about later where there's the kind of the Bee Gees version of them that inspired Tom. That's on the drum kit the whole time on the front of the bass drum, which I just recently began to start noticing.
Yeah.
There's also 2 other people in the garage. Did you know this?
I've never, ever noticed this.
There's one wide shot. It's a blip. Take a wild guess as to if there's 2 other humans in that garage. Who's your best guess as to who they are?
I would have no guess, like at all.
Me neither. It was Jordan Pudnick and Chad Gilbert of the rock and roll band Newfound Glory, with whom the band was touring at the time.
Oh.
Interesting little cameo appearances there, according to our buds over at Wikipedia. Pretty interesting. It's just barely. They're in chairs off set a little bit, but what it's
like
worth.
Sleeping on the couches. Barely
just hanging
visible.
out. By design, I'm sure they don't acknowledge the fact that they're in a video at all. They're just sitting there.
Yeah.
For Chad, that doesn't surprise me, but Jordan, I think you need a little more showmanship there. You would expect. Just kidding. This is a pro Haley show. Sorry, everybody. Moving along. Okay. El Segundo, California. There's some shots about the world they're creating. A van pulls up to a burger joint. It's 1974. We're in California. Lots of smoke in the van. Mark's driving a VW van, and they don't seem to be sober when they step out of the van because they all come just tumbling out. But before we get into maybe the storylines, they're giving Tom a pretty long leash in the rock out scenes in the garage during the opening riffs to just go nuts. A lot of humping, a lot of crotch grabbing, a lot of punching, air fighting. He's exploring the space.
So a couple things here for the intro. First of all, it still like boils my blood that the Starting Line's Best of Me music video, the intro was cut in half, and probably for budget reasons. The intro of this song is doubled. It is twice as long as it is on the album. And to me, it's like that meme of Leonardo like making it rain on his yacht from Wolf of Wall Street, I think it is. With just like throwing the money overboard. It's like, no, we're just going to drag this out. We're going to, not only do we have dialogue at the beginning, we're going to double the intro, and we get a little bit of storytelling, and Tom is just going crazy. And maybe this is something that should be said later on in the episode, but it makes me feel like Tom and Mark had a fight right before filming, and Tom is just like lashing out like a child. Like Tom is like stealing all of the show. There's even a shot where Mark pushes Tom out of the way and like checks his hair in the camera.
I would wonder if that's by design. But if you look at the Letterman appearance where they have black eyes and stuff, like I don't want to talk about it. I don't know. It depends what narrative you want to piece together as the podcaster. You know what I mean? Like at some point it's like, okay, Tom's stealing the show, but then Mark's doing it. Are they doing it to lean in and it's funnier that way? Or
right.
I wonder if there's a little showmanship there. I don't know if they'd have a fight as scripted in the video. Would be my counter.
No, not in script in the video. I mean, like before they started filming, like they legitimately weren't getting along that day, because there's like Tom is like right in the lens grabbing his crotch, and Mark is just like looking off at the ceiling like he doesn't even know where he is. And then there is one shot of just Mark, and Tom like dives through the frame of the shot, and it's so fucking funny to me. Like we can't even get one shot of Mark for even half a second without Tom.
I'll say this.
Just trying to.
I think it was scripted that way because of the push that comes later. B, whatever it was, whatever Tom was, maybe he was just sober high on life that day. I'm not here to make assumptions, but Mark and Travis sit back and they let him do what he does, which is a lot, like we said, punching, air humping, a lot of this stuff. It comedically, tonally hits for me. It's just like, this is very entertaining. He pops up in a frame, like the mustache, the lip ring, the hair. It makes his eyes look more demented in a weird way, just the way it frames his face. There's something about the character of Boomer that, as we've learned, To the Stars Academy, I think sells Boomer merch. Like there's a little cult fandom. And we saw it. I think Zach got to play Boomer for our Halloween costume, and people were like, Boomer! Just the Vans, the shorts. There's a power. It's almost like when Andy Kaufman used to play that lounge singer, Tony Clifton, and he'd be like, f you. You know, I mean, he would just like become this new person with like this power to control. You know, it's like he was like this silent, weird alt comedian or whatever, like a legend, obviously. But when he became Tony Clifton, he'd be like, f you. It's a kind of a weak Tony Clifton. But like, you know what I mean? It's just like Boomer is this whole entity. And he would, depending on wherever they were as a couple, as a band, Tom exploring that space is just an artistic expression, I guess. I will go out. I will die on that. I think it's a beautiful, like, talk down on fart punk. Eve 6 recently tweeted, dicks and farts are funny, but not as funny as Blink-182 thinks they are. You know, that shots fired, as one of our Twitter followers pointed out. But I'll say this, within that very thin genre of music video that we talk about on the show, the fart punk stuff, this is the best, most hilarious, well-executed version of what that is. Yeah. Is it the best version of like art in general? Up for debate, for sure. But if we're talking about those types of early 2000s pop punk music videos, there's a lot of crazy energy here that as a teen, it was like, yeah, I'm in fully. And there's still like 2.5 minutes left in the video, let alone an epilogue of the video
getting
itself.
Started, yeah.
It's just, he's all over the place. And I just wanted to at least, I guess, say that I think it works very well for what they're trying to do, whether they were feuding or whatever. It's very funny to me. It was and still is, I suppose.
It's great. I always want, so many bands try to do this thing, but I feel like and maybe this is why Mark isn't really playing in. Travis never really does, but I feel like there's been a lot of like bands that tried to do the fart punk thing, and it was just so like over the top and cringy. And I think it's because everyone was trying to do it. So maybe it's good that the other guys took the backseat and let Tom just be the guy. So it wasn't like everyone was trying so hard. There was an energy of like, oh, there's Tom again.
To there are big splashes in the band, big flashes of this. I think there was a write-up for Enema of the State that, services on every reunion or anniversary of the album or whatever. But it's just like, Blink-182 is the worst. Not the worst, but they're just like, it is the most like cringy, farty, inappropriate, but possibly the best pop punk album of the last 30 years. It's just like, this is hard to explain, but it's about as inappropriate as could be. These dudes are way older than they should be acting. What's my age again? To a T. Like, what's my age again is the thesis statement of the band overall. But it took the world by fucking storm. Enema of the State and Take Off Your Pants and Jackets. I remember being in high school. There was a dude named Micah with a big, grew his hair out.
Yeah.
It was curly. It was more of a fro, but he was in an art class I was in. And he had those two albums on his iPod. You know what I mean? But I expected him to just be like talking about like deep Muse tracks or something. You know what I mean? Like, not that Muse would be the hardest band to understand or whatever, but like, I didn't expect him to be like, oh yeah, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket is amazing. I'm like, damn, this is universal. Everybody loves these two albums. And it gave me peace to be like, I don't mind being in the, like, yeah, these are just generally accepted to be like very fun, nice 2000s albums. We were just watching a movie, Yes, God, Yes, with the girl from Stranger Things. And it's set in the 90s, and one of the people in there, even in that movie, it's weird living in it when your generation starts to get catered to in pop culture. But at the lunch table, they're like, yeah, this new album, I just popped it onto my, Zune or whatever, but it's like, it's called Enema of the State. Get it? Yeah, it's hilarious. I love these guys. And somebody tells me to go away. But it's weird having those references just be like common knowledge. But yeah, they were huge. And it's easy to take shots now after the fact that they're old and they have children and stuff. But like you said, they were emulated over and over and over and over and over again. I don't know whether there was someone did it.
Yeah.
Yes. That energy, and maybe they were emulating someone else. It's very likely. Art is mostly just stealing ideas and making them your own and trying to make them better or whatever. But that's a fucking whole statement that could be dissected. But anyway, we can go deeper into the video now. But it was obviously it was something to behold. Whether that was good or bad, maybe up for debate, but it was a statement, a power move, power state. I don't know. There's a gravity I think there's an undeniable gravity to the video and the song and the album itself, right? It was a moment in time, if nothing else. I'll stop there because I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I'm trying to give them some credit where credit's due because of how large it was and nothing else, just the scale and scope of what Blink was.
Yeah. This is why I'm so afraid of talking about Blink, because I just want to be like,
I know. I fucking hate
this.
I know. But it's also like, I hate what they've become also.
I know.
What I really hate is that we're all getting older.
I know.
Okay. Anyway,
let's go to frame 2 of the music video.
Frame 2. Let's uncover some more.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the First Date episode. I wanted to quickly thank our Patreon supporters, the Emo Elders, but first, let me actually give Bill Sproutington a shout out. Just the other day, they upgraded their Patreon supportership from Emo Kid to Emo Veteran. They surely do grow up so fast. But in the Council of Elders, our Emo Elder tier, we have Andre Prevost, Johnny Leftwich, Chris Lukey, Jason Carey, and Anonymous. Thank you all so much for your support. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. If anyone would like to check out what's going on at our Patreon, you can head to patreon.com/reminiscent to find behind the scenes photos and videos, AMAs, bonus episodes, and early releases. Thank you so much to everyone who supports the show, and thank you to everyone that listens. We really appreciate you all. Thank you so much, and back to the episode. So, we're just setting up the scene. It's 1970, 6, El Segundo. We're seeing a lot of, early, skateboard, pennyboard type things. Tall tube socks, the van, they're rolling out of the van. Smoke is pouring everywhere. And right away, we see kind of like a love interest, right? And it's the girl with some other guy, which is just perfect for any kind of pop.
Yeah, you think this is going to be a storyline, but really it's a lot of, if you want to call them vignettes, which I don't think you should. A guy's fixing a car. This guy's like 55 with the same wig Tom has, I think.
Yeah.
Good jawline, nice facial hair, handsome man. But she's, that thing where when you're trying to find the straw, but you're not looking at it with your tongue. She knows what she's doing, though. It's not an accident, but she's trying to find the straw. And the members of the band are taken with the spectacle. And she knows what she's doing, and they are aware of what's happening, wanting it to last forever. But, kind of, I guess, alluding to the lyrics later, maybe. But the guy turns around, smacks her hard on the rump. He's done fixing his car, I guess. He gives her a big old wet tonsil hockey kiss, both tongues out, meeting in midair between the faces. And then he goes and just grabs Travis's burger and takes a big ass bite out of it. So the guy, For all the arguments I just made about the cultural weight of this music video, this is a good snapshot as to why none of this matters at all and is very stupid. Because like none of this comes up ever again or makes sense or is good necessarily. And they're just high, almost eating their burgers. And some very old guy in a wig eats their food and they walk away. And the car thing is never addressed again either. It's just like, what the was that is my main question. But there's much more to get through, so we'll just keep moving. But yeah, it's kind of an odd, between the fact that 30 seconds ago they were talking about brother kissing and et cetera, it's a lot of ideas at once is what I'll say, I guess.
Yeah, no through line. They're never going to come back to this, but it's just setting a little bit of the tone. And then immediately we're somewhere else. And again, never readdress the girl, but we're playing wiffle ball. Well,
before that, we get a glimpse of the VW van's bumper sticker, which reads, quote, ass, gas, or grass. Nobody rides for free, end quote. And then, they, now we're at a different part of El Segundo. They're having a hell of a day. Still mid-morning, I guess, because there's still some water park fun to come later when the sun's still up. So they went to grab some maybe late morning pre-lunch breakfast or something. Maybe these stoners just woke up. They're coming back. Hey, let's go play some wiffle ball at What's-His-Face's house. Sure, they park the van. And they see, I guess, an acquaintance. You want to take this one? They see a girl who has braces outside
in
the
headgear.
In headgear. Somebody in the neighborhood, maybe who they recognize, seems to be their age. She's riding by on a bike, and I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, I think she might be a little smitten with Tom, right? Because she kind of gives this smile. And the actor is playing this role is so good at being a headgear wearing nerd. But Tom kind of like waves her off. He throws the pitch. The batter hits it with a crack that's way louder than a wiffle ball could ever produce, but we'll let that go. And kind of a celebratory toss of the bat, which goes perfectly through the spokes of the girl riding the bike. She goes over the handlebars with a nice and her braces are sparking on
which
the
is
pavement.
A lot of people don't know that was the Wilhelm scream. That's where it originated. I'm just kidding.
That was it. I always thought the braces sparking on the pavement is so funny. Everyone's
supposed to feel bad for this girl, I guess, right? Obviously, but I'm very curious about her relationship with Tom. You said she feels, your interpretation is she's taken by, Boomer. He waves her off before delivering the pitch.
Yeah.
And then when she gets up, mad, understandably so, like, what the hell? Because the guy just threw it like a bat flip in baseball after a home run,
he wasn't
right?
going for it.
That's out of here. But it just happens. But she's mad. She thinks it's intentional. She gets up. She's hot a little bit. She's like, what the hell, guys? And then Tom does he just says, what the f-? Which is like, you thought in the notes, I wrote this. You said you thought I was being like robotic in my notes. This is straight quote from Wikipedia. Yeah.
Right.
A shot from the video where DeLonge's character Boomer mouths the phrase, what the f***, became a popular GIF online in the late 2010s, which I think is the most hilarious Wikipedia entry possibly ever.
And then I wrote in response to that, thanks Patbot 3000.
That's right.
Not realizing it was just copy and pasted from Wikipedia.
Yes, it was. But then here's a question. Are you surprised the GIF that got popular from this scene wasn't what he does next, which is start to hump in her direction and double bird flip her off? Which Travis then follows and does as well.
Which is so surprising because Travis is so straight-faced all the time. And the look on his face, he has this like Beavis and Butthead, kind of look when he's flipping him off. And
I wonder if that's the only character he showed all shoot, and the people were like, we got to get Travis in this video at some point.
I mean, that's like the only thing he did of color in this entire thing. And he was always so serious. So when he does this, it really threw me off. I thought it was so funny. And when I was trying to get the outfit ready for Halloween, I kept wondering, there's probably a design on the back of his hat. I know we never see it, but I would love to duplicate the design. In this shot, when he's flipping the double bird in the van, you can see the letters I and a tiny bit of a palm tree. And I remember being at your house in Ohio being like, oh my God, it says Hawaii and there's 2 palm trees. So Zach took a Sharpie and drew that on the hat. Like, we were really trying to nail this outfit. And this one scene gave me the only glimpse of the hat. So every now and then when I see it, it's like this tiny little Easter egg, just wearing a random Hawaii hat. But
nice.
Yeah, they all just hate that girl so fucking much. It's like, I don't know. Sad, but hilarious.
This is another one of those moments where Tom was just unhinged off, if they were giving him a long leash, he's off the leash at this point. Just like she gets up, heated, understandably so, double bird hump flips her off. And it's like, okay. And that's not even the most egregious. Anyway, it's a long day for this trio. And that is just one chapter in the long fart punky of the fart punky. And then they move on. The WTF GIF is better when they mix it with the Matrix stuff. I think that's a version of that WTF GIF. Yeah. Also, they mixed it with the Homer Simpson retreating into the bushes stuff. It's lived a good late 2010s era internet life. For all the leeway Tom gets, though, this is the part you were referencing earlier where they go back to the garage and Mark just shoves him out of the way.
Like completely out of frame. And he
checks his hair in the camera.
Yeah. And then we're back to later on in the day, similar area. They're slip and sliding, they're skateboarding, and there's this fucking shot where Tom falls off his skateboard and slides into a ditch like face first on his stomach. His legs are like full scorpion over his body. And honestly, like the perspective it was shot at, I feel he slides into like a different dimension because he slides so long and so far. And
you know that thing in like 2011 where it would be like, that
yeah.
I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the ones where like it freeze frame with his legs over his head in the ditch and he just soars off into space after falling off his skateboard. Wow. Yeah, we're doing a quick rundown of every internet thing that happened in the 2010s. Thanks, Wikipedia. No, but yeah, he goes flying. It's like if he's on his high horse at the beginning of the music video, Mark shoves him. And then it's almost like it's almost like a voodoo doll thing. The person that was on the skateboard, also Tom, falls from that shove. So he's humbled a little bit in those 2 shots real quick back to back.
That's a hard fall, man. I cannot believe.
But what's interesting about and this is why, if you don't mind me saying, Boomer contains multitudes, because in the next frame, they start these like freeze frame, like nostalgic things where he's out the sunroof of the van, throwing the horns up hard on their way to the water park after totally eating shit in the ditch off his skate. He's just like, you can't keep Boomer down, man. He's just got a lust for life.
It's
just
incredible.
Throwing up the horns with authority too. Just like, yeah, that's how we do it. I just knocked a girl off her bike and also fell myself. So karma's real, but I'm still pumped to just be. I'm just happy to be here, man. Live to hump another day. That's Boomer's mantra.
And we get the third scene and right back into testing karma as much as he can. They're standing by the pool with, I guess, beers in their hand and just shoves the kid into the water.
Yeah, we're at the water park. Yeah, there's 2 more chunks of the video, I guess, water park than the Bee Gees stuff, which we'll get to later. But I don't know if we're running long. We can speed through this a bit. Sorry for referencing a programming note in the middle of the show again. Sorry, yeah. He pushes a kid in the water, obviously, like you said, and then they're just pouring soda or beer or whatever onto kids going down the slide, causing a ruckus at the park. As a former Waldemere and Water Park employee, these kids would get some warnings, and they'd get some warnings fast.
It's so funny to me. The kids come down the slide and they're just like pouring red liquid on their heads.
The 70s were a simpler time, Tom. They were better. They were better. Okay?
Oh my God.
Back then you could just pour drinks on kids.
Right. So they're just, causing mayhem. They realize, you know what? This slide looks kind of fun. Let's go see what it's all about.
They get a little dose of reality, a little dose of what's coming to them maybe, but thoughts on the creepy lifeguard, who I, for years, thought was in the In2D video, but that's not the case.
Oh.
Because there's scenes where people climb ladders and either dive or take a slide, and I'm like, in my brain, they mush them together all the time.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, he's got like the zinc on his nose and the Speedo, and he's like, there's a so 2001, an overweight guy. He slaps his ass, his whole body, shakes in slow motion, and he turns around. This lifeguard turns around with his tongue out and like points at the band and is like, "You're next." And wouldn't happen
seems to
today,
like Mark.
right? But 2001. This is the pinnacle of comedy, I guess, for better or for worse. But
yeah, Aziz Ansari had a good point in his most recent, I think maybe it was 2 years ago at this point, but he's like, yeah, comedy's come a long way in the last decade. The highest grossing film possibly ever, The Hangover. One of the lines of dialogue there is paging doctor, and he says the line from The Hangover. He's like, yeah, change can be good. I think was his larger point necessarily. But yeah, so a lot of ass smacks, a lot of just a creepy lifeguard character being creepy to the max. They slide down, more freeze frames at the bottom. They're pumping their fists. They themselves are having a good time. Between almost maiming the girl on the bike and almost losing, I don't know what the car interaction couldn't make less sense. Anyway, one of the bright spots of their day, I think, is going down this slide.
Yeah. It shows them like split frame, all three splashing down at the same time, freeze frame, arms in the air.
Oh, but they're humbled again when they step out of the pool. Which
and their pants
another
are on, right?
Big fart punky moment. No, the pants are on, but apparently it's clear that well endowed they are not, as they run into some ladies who they take a liking to, which is, I guess, the theme of the video. I'm not sure. Anyway, they do the newly available iOS emoji where the index finger and the thumb are close together, indicating that their members might not be gargantuan by any measure, and they are humbled again. And then they just cut to this portion of the video, which is, then it goes off the rails a bit in a fun way, in a better way. I don't know. Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, then it like zooms in on the kick drum, and all of a sudden they're the Bee Gees, like singing face to face on a mountaintop or something.
Yeah, I guess doing light Googling, I guess elements of the video were from DeLonge, who viewed a documentary on the Bee Gees of all bands and found the hair and clothing outrageous. Quote, I called up Mark and was like, dude, you've got to watch this shit. These dudes are on top of a mountain singing face to face with the sunset behind them. And this type of interaction, I guess, leads me to believe that it was choreographed, a lot of the pushing and the tom and the camera. It's just like the character of Boomer rides high, but often gets humbled, I think, is what we see. They might have been feuding. Blink-182 doesn't break up for several more years, I guess. Maybe the cracks are beginning to form, but it's interactions like this that make me think, they're still buds, I guess. I don't know. Fame does a lot of weird things to people. I think they're mostly cool these days, but it's definitely interesting because they were, again, on top of the world. But yeah, it's kaleidoscopes, them in crazy costumes, crazy hair, singing face to face very intensely, walking a horse, and the song kind of ends.
Well, yeah.
Let's make this last forever. They're yell singing into each other's faces from like 2 inches away.
And again, Mark is kind of half there, half not. And Tom is just like...
Right. Well, maybe they thought there was going to be a rock show video where Tom or Mark could get to pop off. I don't know. I mean, sometimes in life, I don't know, you get a good crew, you get a good whatever. Whatever this was, I think ultimately it worked. And it was a Tom heavy one. There were a lot of Mark moments in Blink's history. But there's an epilogue. You want to run us through that real quick?
Yeah, so they're go-karting, and it's kind of telling what's happened to Travis Spalding and Boomer in the years since. First, I do want to say Travis is doing these like huge like windmill things with his arms while he's doing those last three crashes. Love it. The song ends. Well, the three of them are, I guess this is all taking place in one day. It's funny that it's about a date, and it's just the three guys hanging out together. Now that I think about it. But they're sitting on the driveway with some popcorn, and of course Boomer just has a huge boat.
That is the last major Tom's off the rails moment.
Yeah.
There's some go-karting. He's peeing in the bushes with a stopped car on the side of the track. And then, somebody jumps a bike over a bunch of people, and they're all watching. And, Boomer's got a bit of a situation downstairs with his penis. It's erect. And then it ends. Then the epilogue comes. But there's a few peeing in the bushes and then boner. Well, I forgot two pretty major Boomer movements.
I think the concept of stopping your go-kart in the middle of a racetrack to just pee in the bushes is so fucking funny too.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to take, I mean, in the epilogue, Boomer has a beer in the pool with the kids. So I think like it wasn't soda they were pouring earlier. I think falling off the skateboard, I think Boomer's generally pretty loaded. And like the character of Boomer is just high on life and other substances as well, kind of perpetually. Because why else would you have a bladder full of anything before the race unless you've been drinking heavily all day?
It's like a 1.5-minute race. You can't make it through.
Right, exactly. And at that point, it becomes kind of about the statement of wanting to be outside. It's like, isn't this crazy? It's almost like,
right.
You know, anyway.
So yeah, we get the epilogue, and it's what has been happening with the band member since Travis now rides go-karts full time.
There you go.
And he looks so lifeless as he's racing around the track. Oh my God, he's my hero. Spalding still lives in his van. And as you mentioned earlier, if you can... God. I can't believe this stuff was just like pop culture in 2001. Boomer is in jail for undisclosed reasons as he's in a pool holding a beer surrounded by too many kids, we'll say. And just wild how things have changed since Blink was singing about dogs and, you know, their dads and stuff. But at the time, it just didn't get any better than this. It was so funny.
Yeah. Similar energy in that Green Day Blink-182 documentary you reference a lot that we watched together back at your house in between Homestar Runner skits. Just like, man, I want their life. I'm 14 and this seems amazing. But yeah, I think, you know, we get nervous. I don't know if that was a good episode or not. Probably not. Feel free to let us know at _.
I feel like it was awful.
It was rough. You know, I think this is why we want to do Blink stuff. Then we feel subconscious about it. But then we get into these weird, you and I each take turns really searching our own souls for how we feel about this band, which is, I guess, conflicted at this point because we're all getting older now. But perhaps Eve 6 said it best recently on Twitter when they said, dicks and farts are funny, just not as funny as Blink-182 finds them to be. So maybe that's more of a profound statement than we think. Anyway, you want to do a song of the week? I mean, is any final thoughts? Any closing thoughts? I think we thanks for enduring that. I don't know if every time we're done recording, I'm like, that was the worst thing we've ever done. But
right. And I don't want to do Blink like that. This is one of my favorite songs ever.
So
and
good.
It just feels so hard to talk about, man.
It's so fun. Yeah, it's a really fun video. Obviously, hopefully, Travis, if you're listening, know that we dressed up on Halloween as this because we love you. And yeah, it's definitely interesting to try to sort through 20 years later or what, 15 years later or so. But
yeah, great
lot
stuff.
Definitely an interesting, if we're just talking like Tom and Mark counter, Tom is a very entertaining force to be reckoned with in this song, in this video. So I think this is a score one for Tom moment. I think if we're keeping the Mark versus Tom stuff, which is problematic and not helpful to anybody. But as a Mark guy, I'll let you, a Tom guy named Tom, to have this one.
Yeah, I love Mark, but I've always been Team Tom. We'll give it to him. He definitely put on a hell of a show for this video.
Yeah, if nothing else, a high effort performance, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, sorry everyone. But
I think like this is more of a therapy session for us as buds, which I guess is the show. I don't know. Let's wrap it up.
Let's do song of the week.
Yes, let's.
Okay, so Phoebe Bridgers, there's been some activity on her Twitter of people like writing her new single, and there was this girl that put out an incredible song. It was like a parody of Phoebe Bridgers. Her name is Jensen McRae, and I went to her Twitter page. She is a musician. She does a lot of stuff, and she has a song called Wolves that came out last year. It is very, very good. So I've been enjoying that today.
Nice. You know, Blunt Force Concussion, did you already do that one? I think you did Elvis 77. Either way, we're going to work our way through this entire Dirty Nail album, but give me Blunt Force Concussion. I've had a lot of fun at the beginning of 2021, having fun with these Dundas, Ontario alt-rockers, as phrased by Apple Music.
Nice.
I wonder how far from Erie that is. Probably not super far. honestly.
Right. You can get there. You can get there in an afternoon, I bet.
Yeah. Nice little day trip.
Yeah, I love that album. But let's put this one out of its misery and go to the post.
Yeah,
Jesus
it's
Christ.
over, man.
Okay.
It's over, man. It's over.
Love you all. Sorry. Bye.
Love you. Bye. Sorry for everything, as always. It's going to be a t-shirt soon because we continue disappointing you, so we might as well just put it onto a t-shirt at this point. Okay. Bye.
All right, guys. I don't know why it's so hard to talk about Blink-182. They're literally our favorite band of all time, but we it up every single time. I hope you enjoyed the episode, though. Please hit us up on Twitter @_reminiscentfm and let us know how bad of a job we did. And thank you all so much for being here. Make sure to check out this week's sponsor, Alabama Deathwalk, whose song you'll be hearing at the end of this episode in its entirety. Thank you all so much. We'll talk to you next week. Bye, everyone.
Life's too short to pander, but still I eulogize. I still try to win you after I apologize. After I apologize. Call it a bluff, call it anything you want, but I know call it me, call it anything. I know the truth, but you're too close to question, so you can't empathize. The room I found my voice in, now I barely recognize. While the town you built got crowded, misguided and energized. Misguided and energized. Now I see that you and I both needed more than we could give back then. Well, now